So now the data is ready. You can go to top right corner. Here you see download options, right? So if we click on this, there will be different possibilities. You can download data in Microsoft Excel, in CSV or tab text format. I prefer Excel. Excel is the most convenient one. And from Excel you can copy, transform data to any other software, I believe. So let's click on Excel. After you click on Excel, so you see the data is downloaded. It appears here. If it is not here on bottom left corner, you can find it in your downloads folder, right? So I'm clicking on this, and now you see data in Microsoft Excel. Yeah, so let's click on enable editing. Usually when you download data from internet, Microsoft blocks editing options to protect your computer from viruses. So let's click on enable editing. So you have now data in Microsoft Excel. You can see the first column is year, then we have time code, country code. I can highlight all of them, all these columns, and then make them a bit larger. So drag to make it visible. So first variable is time, time code, country name, country code, GDP per capita, FDI, oil rents, and human capital index. And you can see the numbers in cells. So guys, before we copy this data into Stata, we need to make some, again, preparations, prepare this data. There are some minor things that you need to fix them before you start working in Stata. So as I said before, it's sometimes very time confusing, especially when you don't know what you should know, what you should do. So I will show you some hints, some useful steps before you start working with your data. All right. So you have two worksheets here. First one is data. Second is series metadata. You have detailed information about each indicator that you have downloaded. The list here can be very long, right? So let's go back to data. First thing what we need to do, we remove at the end, there's sometimes usually some source information. So let's remove this part. We'll not be using it, right? I'm highlighting the rows and then right click and then delete, or you can simply delete cells if you wish. Yeah. So let's go up and let's first we start with variable names. You can see that for some variable names we have long names with space bars. Stata never likes space bar in variable name. You see there is a space between country name, country code. Yeah. When you copy it state to Stata, Stata will automatically modify these names, and you may not be happy with these modifications. Yeah. Sometimes the variable names will be long odd text. So let's change variable names here. Time we will rename with year. Time code actually is not required. We can drop it here. If you right click on column B, you move cursor to B, letter here, right click, and then delete. You see this column disappeared. We don't need it. Country name, let's remove spacebar and type here country. For code, let's type here code, simply code. GDP per capita, let's type here GDP PC, which means GDP per capita measured in US dollars. FDI as percentage of GDP, let's name it FDI. Oil rents, let's type here oil. This is percentage of also GDP. And the last variable is human capital index. Let's type here HCI. So we have these variables here. Before we copy this to Stata, guys, one more issue. You see here we have some missing values, right? For some countries, there are missing values, and instead of missing values, World Bank uses double dots. You see double dot here, here, here. So we need to get rid of them. If you leave this double dots here and then you proceed with copying data, Stata will recognize the entire column as text. We don't want it to be text. These are numbers here. Therefore, we have to drop, we have to eliminate this double dots. To do so, you can highlight all the columns, right? All 7 columns, and then click Control H. Control H. In MacBook, it can be slightly different, maybe Command H. So we need to find and replace double dots with nothing, right? So make sure that in Find What tab, we have double dots and replace with nothing, empty. So if I click Replace All, Stata will do 770 replacements. Not Stata, sorry, Excel. Yeah. So you can see that now double dots disappeared, right? Instead, I don't have any value, right? So that's one important issue, important step that needs to be taken. Second issue is that's usually that's what students encounter, is about decimal points. Yeah, you can see that in my Excel, decimal points are dots. You see this here I have dot 556.31 21 385. Yeah, this is number here. For some, if you do it in your PC, there can be this comma. Decimal separator can be comma, and it might not work with Excel. Therefore, I recommend to use conventional decimal separator, which is dot. In Windows, you can go to File. In File, you can go to Options. From Options, you can go to Advanced tab. And here you see my decimal separator is point, is dot. And thousand separator, I have here spacebar. It's not visible, but I put spacebar to see thousand separator. For decimal separator, use dot, right? So, and then if you have comma here, replace it with dot, all right? And don't use dot in other places. Sometimes for decimal separator, by default, comma is chosen. So make sure that you have this set up. In MacBook, you might need to find it in some other place. Maybe you need to go to system settings, the regional, and some units, etc. You can find it in other place, and you can Google and maybe get exact explanation how you can set decimal separator in your PC. So now let's copy this data to Stata. So I'm highlighting all the columns, you see. Right click copy or Control C or Command C, and let's open Stata. Yeah, Stata is here. We go to, on top we have data editor edit. You see it here. And I click on this, and something similar to Excel will appear, right? And you have to click Control V or paste. Control V or paste. Treat first row as variable names because our first row includes variable names. After I click on this, data will appear here. You can see, right? So first thing that you may have noticed, that text appears in red. Country name is text and code is text, right? Other variables like year, GDP per capita, FDI, oil, human capital index, they all are black or gray, and they are numbers. And you can see that decimal separator here is point, dot, right? So after you close this, now data, you can see variables here. So Stata opened, new data set, Yeah, and let's save it. You go to File, Save As, and you can select source and then save it. Let's type here WDI data. In my case, I will type here 2 and save. Now data is saved in Stata. It is in a safe place. You can work with data. All right, I will stop video here.